Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Are You Screening podcast. I am your host, areyouscreening.com's own Mark Eastman. And with me, as always, is co host extraordinaire Shane Leonard.
Hello.
And, it's already getting weird that I can actually look at you.
No, I was just like,
read something.
I was like, do I look at him and acknowledge the handoff and be like, oh, this evening on tonight's news special, just
Yeah.
we're still getting used to it a bit.
All right.
Anyway.
This week, we're going to try to run
Oh,
through
yeah.
some things fairly quickly because we're going to, we've got Argylle, which we're just kind of going back to because now you can stream it. And we,
Right.
skipped over that one for good reason. And then we've got Unfrosted, and then ultimately the Fall Guy.
I haven't written any of these down.
Kind of the bigger deal.
Yep.
This week, which is getting a weird takes from people.
Yeah.
Because of its box office performance and
Yep.
stuff, which I think is weird, and I feel like people are coming out of the woodwork to try and figure out why this movie shouldn't have got made because it's not going to make enough money.
Right.
And, it didn't need to be the Fall Guy, and that allegedly hurts it, or this reason that people aren't going to see it. And I'm like, every year, if you look at the whole year, there's always all these movies that get put in this camp of they make tons of money.
Yep.
And people are like, did we really need that? Couldn't we have some good movies and not worry about if they miss money?
Yeah.
And then, as soon as you've got some good movies that don't make that much money, then everyone goes, why are we making this crap?
Right. That's right.
Why are we making this stuff that won't make a bunch of money? Which it's a little surprising this didn't make a lot more. But, the flip side of that is I think this movie probably, and I won't jump into reviewing it right now, but I think this movie probably has some staying power, hopefully, in terms of making money. And they can, still capitalize off of it other than just what it makes at the box office, because it had a big budget, a lot of it for paying the people who were in it to be, actual leading roles.
Yeah.
And I mean, it had a lot of effects, obviously, because it's the Fall Guy.
It's a stunt film.
Stunts
Yeah. And if you make a movie about stunt movies, you've got to have stunts in it.
So, that's a lot of budget there. But, it did have a big budget, but this is a movie if it barely makes even a tiny profit,
right,
that ought to be good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Because
victory.
Because it's actually fun, and it's a little outside the box, and you're kind of taking a chance, and I don't know. If anything good happen, and at the end of the day, at some point, people complain forever that no one will make a movie because they think it'll be good unless it'll make a ton of money.
Right.
But then they do, and
then they besmirch it, and they're like, "You're only
shit
doing
on
this
for that.
to try to make a bunch of money." You're like,
it's
okay,
you can't win.
That's Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah. Anyway, so before we jump into that, though, we'll go into Argylle real quick, and I do want to just mention this week coming out is going to be If, which I'm very scared of, but potentially could be a pretty fun thing.
Right.
And then the week after that, it's Furiosa already. So
that blew my mind. I just saw a spot for it, and it told me May 23rd, May 26th. I'm like, that's pretty. Whoa, that's the 14th. Really, that's a week and a half away. Yeah.
So that'll be huge. Okay.
I'm sorry. Am I the only one that's nervous about that? I don't know why I am. George Miller just did something so amazing and changed.
Really,
he changed the show. I mean, we talk about it a bunch when we're doing the awards, but he changed a bunch just dropping that film in. It looked so disposably high octane popcorn fun, and was in its context and subcontext much more important than that. But man, and it's hard because I look at the trailer for Fury Road, and I'm still blown away by it.
Right.
But I've seen the film, so I know. I look at the trailer, and I've only seen one trailer for Furiosa, and I wasn't blown away by it. And it makes me a little nervous. Am I
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
See,
Come on.
going into Fury Road, I thought like I did not have a lot of high hopes for it. I
Me
had
either.
I had
Yeah.
expectations that maybe I would have like a good time.
Right.
But I did not really expect that it was going to be great, and I was very scared that really it was just going to be, you know, not to overly simplify things or
Yeah.
whatever, but I thought it was going to be like this guy who made some popular stuff a long time
Yeah, yeah.
ago,
No, no, I know
got
what you mean.
somebody to give him a bunch of money, and
Yep.
now he can do whatever dumb shit he
Yeah.
wants
Right.
because it's, whatever. And I'm like, oh, this is just going to be like kind of a weird vanity project of a guy remaking the original movie, but with
Yeah.
like a couple of twists, and
Right.
it's a little bit different here and
Updated
there,
here. Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
And it was like awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I I feel like safe from that.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like at this point, if it wasn't good, he wouldn't have made it. Like he doesn't need to
Right.
or whatever. Like he's fine.
He's earned
So
that respect to be like, "Look, you didn't know he was doing it last time. He made Fury Road one of your favorite films." Like, that's what the benefit of the doubt is.
yeah,
I guess the difference is, and I mean, I guess I knew it, I just hadn't vocalized it, is I didn't have any expectations for Fury Road, and I was blown away. When we saw it, I was like, "Holy crap."
yeah.
Now I've
Now
got
you do.
expectations, and I'm like, "Can you meet them?" Because I live in a Phantom Menace world,
Right.
and I'm, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I go, "Okay, that makes sense."
All right. So jumping into Argyle, which you know, I feel like I will feel dirty if we spend too much time on this movie. I'll,
Okay, this is a spoiler alert.
although, it's not zero, but it's not a lot more than that either. There was so
Is
much
it
of this.
100% better than 0?
Uh, yeah. Um, so anyway, I'm not. It's so old at this point, which is horrible to say because it's not that old.
It doesn't feel that.
But I'm not really gonna like run through all the stuff. It's
Okay.
like
Right.
this is like long after being in theaters,
Right.
and you now can watch it on streaming, and it's I don't know, kind of a big thing. It's got an insane amount of names in it
Right.
and big stars in it, and it's got a horribly goofball premise. It's got a premise that is like yet another step removed from
This is like,
premises.
I mean, I don't know how old our audience is. I don't know what the demographics would be, but it's Cloak and Dagger, Remington Steele. You got an Romancing the Stone. You got
It's
an
like worse than
no,
that.
no, I know, but you have an author who has a creation that might or might not be real, and there's
Right.
action around whether or not someone pretending to be this person is this person, and bunch of
Right. And the
red
story
herrings and
is
go.
this
You know,
meek, mild-mannered author is writing these books about a spy,
right,
and then next thing you know, all the stuff comes true. She's
right,
writing about stuff that really happened that no one should know about,
right.
and then she's writing about stuff, and then 2 weeks later it happens, and then all
Now the
that.
spies are paying attention,
Right. And
and maybe
then
she's a spy.
yeah, and
Oh
then it
God,
turns out that it's
right.
you know spy world, whatever. It's really like Inspector Gadgety,
It is no,
and
that's true. It's not Jason Bourne like. It's Inspector Gadgety like. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
And she's got this cat
But
in the thing that she's always taking around.
Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, Bryan Cranston, Sam Rockwell, like people who fundamentally, when they're in a project, are the anchor to keep it from going astray.
Yeah. And yet,
And yet, and
and
yet,
yet, this felt to me, and I'll just give my rating and not go too long, but this felt to me like this group of actors' version of making grown-ups.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
the Adam
Adam
Sandler,
Sandler and
yeah,
his buddies. It's a
right,
different group of actors,
yeah,
but also we just get to go on vacation in Italy or something for 2 weeks while we film this nonsense and
yeah,
get paid. I mean, it's whatever. It's
yeah.
like really goofy. So I did give it a 2 though.
I think I gave you a 1 for it, so I
Uh,
was off, but
I gave it a 2 because,
yeah.
well, for a variety of
Yeah.
reasons, but there are some times that are pretty fun.
Yep.
There are there are several scenes in the movie that actually, like, really irritated me because they were really
They
pretty
work. They
cool.
work. Yep. No, I know.
And I'm like, "Why can't this just be in a different movie? Why
Yeah.
can't this scene just be" I'd wanna watch the movie of this scene.
Yeah.
Like, build a
Right.
whole movie
Yeah.
out from the edges of
Right.
this, because there were times when it was fun. There were times when, it was very weird, especially some of the people you said, like Sam Rockwell, um, Bryan Cranston, they were so up and down for me
Mhm.
in this movie, and it's really stupid movie, so it's almost unfair to judge
I
acting
know.
in a movie this stupid.
Yep.
But there were scenes where they seemed like it was almost like, we film it out of order, obviously,
Sure.
and, different scenes at different times. But it was almost like they got tricked into being in this movie.
Or they just saw the cast list and they're like, "I'll be with these
And
guys."
and they filmed like the first few things and like they were into it.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Okay, aha, I'm this guy and blah blah blah." And then they read the whole script.
Right, 'cause they were then
And
given the
then
whole
they did
script.
the next thing, and then
Yeah.
it's like Sam Rockwell shows up and he's like, "Uh, fine with
Right.
this." Like,
Yeah.
it seemed like you could see them being different. Like,
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they were like, "Oh my god, I have to be here."
If you're Henry
And Bryan Cranston was the worst
Yeah,
for me because
the
or the
best of the
best
worst.
or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
because Bryan Cranston was like he was, like, on
Yeah.
in a lot of the
Yeah.
earlier stuff.
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, but wait, actually, you're this, like,
Slapsticky.
Doctor Claw,
Right. And you
whatever kind of
you
nonsense."
know? Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
He just showed up and just was like it was so weird. But anyway, I gave it 2. That's, I'm gonna leave it there.
Everything you said is pretty much where I'm at. There's a bit where I'm trying to, like feel like I'm having an aneurysm trying to remember any of the important minor details. There's so many flip-flops. There's so many, like, "Is Argyle real? Are you Argyle? Am I Argyle? Are we Argyle? Like, no, you're Argyle." Like, I think if you're
And then she's, like, also monitoring him,
right.
because we have to
The
have that layer too, like
I'll watch Sam Rockwell in anything. I'll watch Bryan Cranston in almost anything. Henry Cavill, I really like. I wind up watching him
yeah,
in almost everything. I think if you're one of those agents and you're like, "Sam Rockwell is gonna do a spy film, I want you to be in it." And I think Cavill and Cranston are like think you then go to Cranston's agent and they're like, "Henry Cavill and Sam Rock," and I think you get them on,
yeah, I'm telling
and I
you,
don't think it
that's
was I
what I
don't think
mean,
and I
it
also
was
think
all a trick.
we're skipping one part of this. We're skipping one part of this, which is it's Matthew Vaughn
Mhm.
who did The Kingsman, Kick-Ass, like, he actually has credits. When Matthew Vaughn is on, man, it's a blast. It's a wild, fun, unpredictable ride. When he's off, it's sloppy and really, like, seasick. Like, it's really weird, and in Argylle, for some strange reason, it's just off, and it's off in ways that were weirdly unnecessary. Because, like you, I forgot, I gave it a 2.5 because of like you said, damn it, there are parts where I'm like, "All right. Oh, okay, let's do this." And some of those scenes that I'm absolutely comfortable and relaxing in are not like blips. Like, it's like a 10 or 15, maybe pushing 20 minutes, and I'm like, "Okay, all right, yeah, do that." No.
Right,
And it's almost like he thinks you're having fun with it, and he's just like, "Well, screw you. Now I'm gonna flip this." And
right,
because the nature of a spy story is who's who, you're not gonna know what's happening, and I'm just rolling dice, and now we're making and I'm like, "This is it." It's the kind of film that is as frustrating to watch only as a completionist because we're gonna cover it. Turn this off.
right.
If I were on a plane or on a bus, you know, you put it away, and you just stare at the headrest in front of you.
Like there's other
And there's
choices
more
or
things. It's
something.
the kind of film that you get frustrated at 40 minutes in, and you don't stop watching your own, but you find your eyes looking over to whoever's traveling with you, and they're watching it because 'cause you're just like, "I just wanna see more. I don't care.
Right.
I'm over it." Like, it just wasn't that good, and I actually think we strangely are overrating it, but there are pockets that are just really fun, and I wish I could just watch those.
Yeah, and I think there are pockets where, like I said, there are times when it seems like the actors are more interested in
Yeah,
doing what they're doing.
yeah,
There are there are scenes that, like you said, that's a Matthew Vaughn from, like, a different movie
yeah.
that where something and I don't know what, you know, drunken stupor got him, like, on this
So hit or miss.
train of this movie,
Yeah.
but this is and since we get to talk about Melissa McCarthy in a second,
Oh, yeah.
this is
Yeah.
like you're watching Matthew Vaughn become Melissa McCarthy's, like, rest of her career,
Right,
like,
right.
the the first half of her career,
It
everything you
sucked.
saw her in, like, she was great, right?
Yeah,
Then all of a sudden, she had enough money that she can make whatever she wants.
right,
She believes her own hype. She's,
right. Now she's in charge. She's the executive
whatever
producer.
the case may be, but
Yeah, no one can stop
everything
her.
else is horrible. And it's like he is in some, I hope he's not in some, like, transition phase where
Right.
this is like what we
This is
get
where he's going. Yeah.
forever.
He didn't
Like Melissa McCarthy,
he
but
didn't direct her spy film, did he? You know that off the top of your head? I have to look that up. I'm sorry
I
to disengage for a second.
I
I
don't
I
think
really
so.
don't think he did, but I need to know real fast
Um,
because if that's his thing,
you're just in a Matthew
I just
Vaughn.
need to look real
I
quick.
need Matthew Vaughn
Oh, of
film.
course not. It was Paul Feig.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Anyway,
Actually, now that you say that, I
now it makes sense.
um, but anyway, all of the stuff that actually relates to the plot is really like, um, throwing a dart at a board or
Yep.
something. It doesn't doesn't have anything that really gets you into from one place to
Yeah.
another. The characters, like, by design, just keep not being the characters
Right.
that they were,
Mhm.
and it's not in an interesting way.
And it's not right.
It's not in an interesting way, but just in a way where, they can do whatever I want them to do now because
At
they're
any
not
time,
actually that
right,
character,
and I
like,
can guise it up by being
Bing, they're a different
spies,
character,
have to
right?
be amorphous, and,
Yeah,
you're like, "No." Uh, I think there are things that we say sometimes, and it comes up every once in a while where you look at performance and you see someone who is otherwise talented with a great resume, and you'll say, "That person isn't doing a bad job, they're doing exactly what they were told to do."
right.
This is one of those films that I actually feel like the cast is basically just doing what they were told to do, like, "Alright, we
Yeah.
signed up, we're here, we're hanging out.
And
This is
even
how you want me to
even
play
still,
it?"
as we've said already, but, I think in terms of actually getting you to maybe pay attention and want to watch it
Mhm.
and kind of leading you along and going, "Maybe I'll follow this,"
Yeah.
it's all Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Because the parts in this movie that
Yeah.
he is good in that
It's so
are
good.
decent scenes, he's great.
He's so good, man.
He
He's so
still is
good.
great.
Tell
It's
him
crazy.
you tell him you want a certain scene this way, and he's like, "Yeah, alright, I can do that." And then he does it, and you're like, "Man, what a dumb scene, but you're freaking amazing."
Yeah. He
He
is
is one of the most underlooked, underappreciated actors that's out there. Seriously, he's
yeah,
so freaking good all the time.
yeah. Alright, anyway, that's, like, more than enough
Yeah,
time to
that
talk about that.
watch it,
And
tell
then
us if we're wrong.
and then we'll,
That'd be
move
fun.
on to greener pastures, let's say, with, Unfrosted.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfrosted and this one,
God, this is
I feel like it's really funny in a variety of ways, right? Because Jerry Seinfeld came out with his, nonsense anti-woke thing,
Yep,
and immediately people started saying on, the interwebs
right.
that he wanted an excuse for his movie sucking so bad
Right,
so that once it came out, he could go, everyone's saying they don't like it because they're mad at me for talking about
right, right.
the anti-woke stuff,
I think
and
that's
then and I think, first of all, I think that is, like, 1,000% accurate. I think that's exactly
you
why he
really
did
do?
that,
Oh, I think it's too Machiavellian.
and
He wasn't
and
thinking that from the beginning.
the thing that's even weirder, yeah, we haven't heard anything from the guy in, like, 8
It's
years.
because 'cause he's been making Unfrosted.
Yeah, and then, well, the week before this comes
I
out,
know, right.
now all of a sudden he's gotta go, "Oh, hey, everybody,
Yeah,
eh, I'm mad at woke stuff.
yeah.
By the way, my movie is coming out in a week."
Unfrosted, the story of
The
Pop-Tarts.
even better thing about that spin is that
Even better.
people started saying that, and my first thought
Yeah,
was, "That doesn't come out that soon, does it?"
right, right,
Like, I didn't even know this
right.
was that
Here
close
we
to
go. Yeah.
dropping,
This is
because no one cared to even make me
right.
aware
Pop it in on your
that this
radar. No pun intended.
that this was
This is
coming out.
also look, I'm not a Jerry Seinfeld apologist, and he doesn't need me to apologize for anything unless it's this movie to start with, but this is also the same guy who's telling the story of, like, there was a big argument on the set, and he calmed everyone down and just said, "Look, we're making a very disposable, forgettable film, like, we're just here to have fun with this."
Right.
Like, I don't know. I just think that timing coincided. I think he probably seriously thinks what he does think, and it just happened that the reason it's very big is because he was promoting his film.
Yeah, I
That
think so. I think
that's fine.
I think he totally did that, and I think what happened is he was making this movie for a long time,
Good cover.
and he was making this movie for a long time, and that is what he was thinking making this
Yeah.
movie was, we're just making this,
Goofy
whatever, right?
thing, yeah.
And then I think, about, you know, 2 months ago, they
Yeah,
got some
they
test
saw it.
screenings,
Yeah,
and
they
they got some audiences in to watch it, and then he went, "Now what can I do?"
right.
A
How can I
and then it's so funny because
yeah,
he, like,
right.
doubles down on this anti-woke stuff and goes, "You couldn't make Seinfeld today because of all the woke." And I'm like, "It's the most milquetoast show that was ever on the air.
Yeah,
What could you not air that was
yeah,
on Seinfeld?"
right.
Like, and, people say that sort of thing all the time,
About everything.
and I'm like, "You
Yeah,
know what? You couldn't make The Office, especially the first 2 seasons,
yeah,
because they are really,
yeah,
there would be some backlash, right?"
right, right.
After that, it kind of
Settles
they
a little.
changed
Yeah, right.
gears a bit, but what could you not make on Seinfeld? I mean, man, anyway, but all that just to lead into Unfrosted.
Unfrosted.
It is, it is absolutely, I think, is it the worst movie I've ever seen? It's not really the
Okay,
worst
because I
movie
was
I've
gonna
ever seen.
say,
I am totally
there's a
giving it
list.
0,
You
but it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, right? And
yeah,
about
that's funny.
there are a lot of things
That's
about
hard.
being a bad movie
Yeah,
that this is not, right?
there's a lot of things about okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's not overall the worst movie I've ever seen.
yeah,
It's not like, the movie that's the most calling me stupid or
yeah,
like the laziest or like
right.
whatever, but it is the most pointless movie I've ever seen. There
Ooh,
is nothing about this movie that it needed to be made. It's a really goofball story for
yeah,
no reason.
yeah,
Like, he flipped through the dictionary and stuck his finger in and landed on Pop-Tart, and now he's like, it's like a bet, right? He's like, "You can't make it. I'll pick a word, and you can't make a movie about it or something."
right.
And I swear to God, there are people in this movie, and Melissa McCarthy has a really big role,
Yeah,
and
Stan.
the 2 of them
Yeah,
were bouncing shit off of each other,
'cause it you can tell.
and they both think that they are
Yeah, oh, yeah.
hilarious,
Yep,
right?
yep, true.
They both think that they themselves are hilarious,
Mhm.
and they both think each other are hilarious, and they could not be more wrong. But
Oh my god.
there are a bunch of people in this movie who I genuinely think are funny people
Yeah,
who could
for sure.
do, like, really solid comedy movie
Yep,
stuff, right?
yep.
And there is not one thing in this movie that's funny.
Oh, I disagree,
There's
and the reason
absolutely nothing in this movie that I thought was even mildly humorous.
I get it, I respect it, I do, and I'm coming at this not even from Not everybody knows weird films, and I'm not trying to flex on anything. A goofy, not quite The Adventures of Ford Fairlane that's in my head and heart, but it's very similar, is Saturday the 14th with Richard Benjamin. I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
satire of all the old horror films. There's a very Saturday the 14th kind of thing that happens, and I gave it almost 2 stars just for that. And I stopped there because I thought, this is just inane. But there's like a 20-minute stretch right around the time where Amy Schumer, who I am starting to feel more Melissa McCarthy like about what Amy Schumer's been doing.
Yeah.
There's something not quite vibing the way it did from her work a few years ago. But she goes to Russia. They're trying to secure sugar. Like, I'm sorry, this is hilariously to say out loud. Max Greenfield is with her because he's her
Yeah.
sycophantic assistant. And
He is actually
they,
pretty
right,
good though.
this
He's
is the
fun,
best part of the
but
whole film. It's not kids diving in dumpsters and coming up with, the with sort of the little rascals accents. Like, here's your sugar, mister. None of this crap. It's the scene where they go to Russia. They're trying to get sugar from the Russian premier. And he's asking if, depending on when you have sex with me, that's when you get your sugar. They want him to try the cereal. And there's a quick blip of when they're getting ready to stand up and leave. And they make Max Greenfield try the cereal because they think it's poisoned. And they're like, no, it's fine. They're like, okay, deal's done. And he starts to stand up and he's bleeding out of his nose. And I looked at that and I went, that's the funny movie that is here. I laughed at that. I was waiting to laugh at anything.
oh
I laughed
man.
at that. And there's like a bunch of really dark things that happen in that like 10 or 15-minute span where I'm like, that's the movie I should have seen. All that aside, I gave it a 2. It's really just a Funny or Die skit that is unfortunately an hour and 20 minutes longer than it needs to be. It's riffing off some old thing that Jerry Seinfeld has because he's a clean comic for the most part, and he had a thing about, you ever notice this thing about cereal? Why do they fraud? Whatever. At Passion, that passion project, boy, that's better to say, for him, and he somehow got somebody to give him the money to do it. Jim Gaffigan makes me laugh, but he's just playing like the "Golly shucks, Jim," but even when he walks around and they're saying stuff like, I mean, it's just dumb jokes that aren't supposed to be funny, but I'm just like, ugh. Like, that's the level of laugh where he goes, I'm gonna lose my job and I'm gonna be a hobo. And he goes, they don't like to be called that. You need to be called them bums. And I'm like, so that's the rim shot joke. All right, I guess I'm having a little bit of fun with it. But the nosebleed stuff, that's gold.
Oh
That's
well.
funny.
I mean, okay,
But
so
still,
so
what an awful film.
there's
What an awful
nothing
movie.
there's nothing funny in the movie anywhere. Oh, I object. There's this 2 seconds. It's
Made the
actually
movie for
funny.
me. It made the movie for
Okay.
me. It made the movie 100% better because I actually thought, I get what you're saying,
I
obviously.
think
I get what you're saying, but
I
it's,
think all of the movies that you might compare this movie to,
oh boy. Oh,
like just I mean,
there's a ton of
we have
awful
to go
films.
back to like old movies, right?
Yeah.
They like you said, Saturday the 14th. There's this old movie that is one of my favorite movies, and it's really
Okay.
horrible, and I can't remember the name of it off
Who's in
the
it?
top of my
We
head.
should be able to
And
figure this out.
it's like Midnight
Run?
something. No, and
Oh,
it's about these like stupid college kids who are like on a scavenger hunt that goes all around the city,
yeah.
and you have to get there by midnight or something. And I can't remember the name
Uh,
of it, but it's very like airplane-esque
sure.
kind of
Zucker,
just total screwiness.
puns, and yeah.
And there's like little parts in there where you have to go to the airport and you're supposed to get your next clue,
Mhm.
and your next clue you're supposed to get from the like Hare Krishnas are
Right.
passing out flyers, and
Flyers.
they're like, please accept my humble literature, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they're like chasing you because
Right. You're
no
not
one will
accepting.
take it,
Right.
and they're
Right.
like, oh shit, like they
Please
won't
accept.
take the
Yeah.
clue.
Right.
And it's just like
Vaguely remember this.
there are a bunch of movies like that, and even like Airplane, although that's kind of like
Airplane's
that's
great.
like another
That's in an A
level, right?
tier. Yeah.
Um, but there are tons of goofy movies, like you always say, Adventures of Ford
Mhm.
Fairlane. I always say Hudson Hawk, and we sort of disagree on Hudson Hawk, but the mentality
Yeah.
behind making those movies is 100% different than this movie.
Oh, I
Uh,
totally agree.
the uh,
Totally agree.
the idea of what we're doing and why it's fun and why it's funny and delivering lines and jokes
Sure,
is like
sure.
from such a completely different like perspective on humor
Is
that like those movies you're like this is fun,
right, right.
and this movie I'm like going screw you,
I know, I
like
get
it's
it. I totally Hey, again, I'm not in love with this film. We're not that far apart. It's not like not a lot of people have seen it either. National Lampoon's School Days, which is just a
oh yeah, yeah.
dumb, dumb film. I saw it when I was ready for dumb films. I'll say this. It's Unfrosted on some par, but we're down 1 or 2 stars with, like, the Ernest films, like Ernest Goes to Camp, like, because that's the dumb,
uh
dumb low-hanging fruit that I think is,
Yeah,
like
I would give
I feel this is kind of
I
above
would
that,
give
but
the
not much.
Ernest movies higher score
Ooh,
than
okay.
this because
That's fine.
I feel like the Ernest movies are more honest in like what they're doing. Like
I can't disagree with that.
the
They're
Ernest movies are like, look, man, this is dumb,
right,
but
and we
maybe
know
you'll
it.
laugh or
Right,
whatever.
right.
The Ernest movies for me are like trying to be in a place similar to just like the Three Stooges,
I can
uh,
see that. No, I
like
get it. I understand. I was
like you'll laugh. You might not even
You might
like that
not
you'll laugh,
right.
but this
We'll
is
get one
funny and
from
you'll
you.
laugh,
Yeah. I was thinking Paul Blart, Ernest, like, what are the real low-hanging stuff, and but
uh,
I understand. Anyway,
yeah, at some point it doesn't matter.
Unfrosted
But anyway, the movie is like this whole exploration of breakfast food and the cereal kings and you know
got Chef
we go
Boyardee.
on forever and we have to like we've cracked the code of
Right,
making a Pop Tart
right,
exist
right.
and work or something.
Yeah,
And then it is really, and I feel like I say this a lot, but I don't know if I that I've said this in a long time. But this movie is like Melissa McCarthy, Jerry Seinfeld are in a frat drunk, and then they recorded it, right? And
right.
it's like, if you think that all the dumb shit you say
Yeah,
when you're 18 and drunk and you spent the whole night laughing,
right,
if you think you could wake up the next morning and get the script of what you thought was funny then
right,
and go, "See, that's funny,"
right.
then this is the movie.
Something wrong with you.
This is the movie that you end up with.
Sometimes I like these kinds of films. I did not like this film. I liked a couple scenes, and
There's so much of it that
again,
is, like, painful, though. Even if this movie had more like, even if you, like, give it that scene, and
oh, I know.
even if it had, like, some
More
more
of
of
that.
those,
Yeah, it's still not good.
the rest of it that you have to sit
Yeah,
through is so painful
yeah,
that it is really it's like,
yeah.
I don't wanna, try to bury Jerry Seinfeld because, I
Oh,
mean,
come on. Sure you do.
he is
He is funny.
he is funny.
He
He used
is.
to have funny
He is
stuff.
funny,
I
and he
thought he was
knows
funny,
no, he
right?
is funny.
But this is like, some guy in a corner of an old folks home who's like,
Right.
telling jokes and
Yeah.
laughing his ass off, and everyone else is like
I
going,
know.
"What are you talking about?" Like,
Look, I'm sorry. Another okay, so 1 star for the bleeding nose, 1 star for the sentient ravioli that keeps popping up and doing weird things. Like, that creature, that's that's a star.
yeah,
I'm at 2.
good for you.
I'm at 2.
You just die on that hill.
It's that creepy thing that just starts moving around like the head from the thing, and it's just sort of sentient, and then they can't find it, and they're like, "Where is the weird ravioli
See,
monster?"
it just
Like, there's just something so stupid about that that maybe I was tired.
I don't know.
I
None
don't
of
know.
the other stuff not only does it not land, but it's not even just not funny. It's like you see it
Maybe that's
trying to
why.
be funny and you go, "Man, you think that's funny?"
I
It's
didn't
like it's so
I didn't like
weird.
I know, I'm sorry. I didn't like the way the ravioli looked. It looked like a star in Mario, but I liked the idea and I liked the way it moved because it was creepy. And maybe I was so unamused, I was amused.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe
I don't know.
you were so starved
I'm
for
I
something to be
am
funny that you were like, "I'm just gonna
well,
give it this one."
hey, now wait 1 second too before we move on to the Fall Guy. I also watched this right after Argyle, so I was hungry.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was hungry for something good. I didn't quite get it, but
It just, and you have all this talent
yeah, you do.
available
Sure, there's a ton of people we
to
haven't
be
mentioned.
doing anything,
Yeah.
right? there's so many people in this that are legitimately good,
They are
right?
good.
That, also got a vacation or whatever and got but
Yeah, that's true too.
it's like Melissa McCarthy and Jerry Seinfeld and maybe a couple other people,
Yeah,
and it's like, you hang out with, like, your core friends
yeah,
or something, and by the end of the night, like, you're cracking each other up.
right.
But it's all in-joke
All
bullshit and
yeah.
stuff that, you is, like, funny to
I say
you
something like Call of
or,
Duty, and we
like,
laugh because
remember
we know, but nobody
right,
else is like,
because
"What?"
right, because you fell once when you were
Right,
playing
right.
Call of Duty
You
and
came in and I was
whatever, and
only eating spaghetti, like, in my boxers playing Call of Duty, like, just some dumb thing.
yeah,
Right.
it's,
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, it's awful and shouldn't be watched. Okay, The Fall Guy. So now we got,
Oh, yeah, right, here we go.
yeah, from one weird movie to the next or
Yeah.
whatever, I don't they all fit together perfectly. This is like a perfect
Mhm.
movie night. It's watching
Right,
all 3 of
watching
these.
all of these.
So it's, man, Ryan
Ryan
Gosling,
Gosling, Emily Blunt,
and Emily Blunt, and I'm,
uh,
like, blanking on
Aaron Taylor
some
Johnson, who else is in this? Who else is in this? There's more than that.
the woman that
Who's the
I
woman
can
from
never remember
right,
her
who's the
name,
woman from, um, the soccer show?
Ted Lasso,
Yeah,
yeah.
the soccer show. Just talking about
Ah,
Unfrosted has made me dumber.
exactly, right? Just remembering that you watched it and
Oh,
then
that sucks because
eh,
she's so good, and I'm absolutely embarrassed to blank on her name. I don't even know how to look it up anymore.
dude, just look up Ted Lasso. I don't know.
Hannah
Anyway,
Waddingham.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hannah
yeah.
Waddingham. Yeah,
Um,
that was
yeah,
embarrassing.
and she's good for a while in this, and then
Yeah, she's well,
so,
I'll let you
anyway,
say it
so getting
first.
into the movie, first of all, it's the Fall Guy from the TV show
Right.
in, the way that irritates me most because it has nothing to
It's
do
just
with
the
the
title.
show.
Title and job.
There's no reason for this to be the Fall Guy,
Yeah.
that this could just there isn't even anything apart from, like, using the song, right?
Right.
There isn't even anything that, like, connects it in, like, the tiniest way where it's like you have to buy the rights
Yeah.
in order to use that or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's just none connected at all except that he's a stuntman. There's, like, literally absolutely nothing that connects this with the show, which
Yeah.
really irritates me.
Yeah.
Because I was looking forward to this. I thought it would be good. The trailers make it look fun and kinda
Yeah.
silly and like a good time. And then I'm like, and then it will be related to the show, right? Like, like it's just a meme,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it's related to the show, right? No, it's like nothing. Anyway, but he's a stuntman. Emily Blunt is some version of, assistant unit director or
Yeah,
something,
right?
like some kind of camera
Yeah. Second AD or
directing
something. Yeah.
person,
Right.
whatever she is. And they're dating and they're in love and look, we make movies and
Yep.
life is great. And then he gets injured doing a stunt and he's like out of commission, like he gets
Yeah.
seriously injured. And he not only is like out of commission, but then he's like, wallowing in his
Yeah, right.
self-pity and
Right.
doesn't want anybody to be around him and see him in his,
Mopey stage.
right.
Yeah.
So he just kind of like goes off grid
Right.
ish or
Yeah.
whatever. Like he just has no contact with anyone from the industry at all. And he's just like, he's a valet when we come
Right.
back to him,
Right.
whatever. And then so then it's like months and months later. I think it's like 9 or 10 months later
Yeah.
or something like that. And then he gets a call from the producer,
Yeah.
who now Emily Blunt is directing her first big movie. And again, we've got Aaron Taylor Johnson is like the superstar
Yeah.
guy who's going to be in it. And the producer calls and says that like Emily Blunt wants you because you're the best and
Right.
get back in the game. And
Yep.
he's like, I don't want to see her and blah, blah, or
Right.
I'm not doing this
You
anymore. And
can't.
then she goes,
Yeah.
but Emily Blunt wants you.
Specifically.
Oh, well, now I
Right.
have to go. And then, hilarity ensues. And then things are not what they seem. And their
Right.
secrets,
Twists and
and then,
explosions.
whatever, people
Yeah.
attack him and, whatever, right?
Uh-oh.
And then we have to have these weird fights with people
Yeah.
and, whatever. And the one thing, I'm not going to go too far, but the one thing that kind of disappointed me in this movie was they're doing like all this stuff like super real
Yeah.
because
Right.
it's
Supposed to.
because it's stuntman movie,
Right.
and they show you in the end credits that they like have all these stunts they really do, and
Yeah.
all these stunt people and everything, and they're really actually being very real about everything. And then we have like some fight scenes in the movie
Right.
where all of a sudden it's like a cartoon or something.
Yeah.
People are getting bashed around with frying pans and
Mhm.
whatever, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like it goes in this movie. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that's like your basic rundown. Um, I gave this one 7.5.
Yeah.
Um, and I I wanted to give it more though. I really wanted to give it more because I really had a good time.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun. But ultimately, I just had a few too many things that I thought I have to actually account for these things. I can't write everything off.
Yeah.
And there were, some negatives, and it's like, like just in some kind of like pure, like how much fun did I have and will I watch it again or something? It, it might easily be more like an 8 or a 9,
Right.
you know,
Right. But
but
critically,
but really there are some
there's
things
some
that bugged
stuff.
me and
Yeah.
there's some stuff I didn't like about it, like that's one, but
Yeah.
maybe not the biggest thing ever. But anyway, so I that's what I give it, 7.5.
It's hard to argue with any of that, and I don't have much of an argument for it. I gave it an 8. Again, mostly in the same realm. 7, we've talked a bunch about how 7 is a certain kind of film, and 7.5 is a big canyon that fits a lot of faulted but really fun. We really love
Yeah.
it, but you can't nail the ending, or you really had an odd beginning, or just something's really off on it. 8 is just flying out of that a bit, and I wasn't quite as beholden to the idea that it would be tied more specifically to the show that I really loved as a kid, except in the regard that if this were successful enough, I guess it sets up the idea that this is how Colt Seaver sort of starts becoming like a stuntman detective. Like, it's almost
I
like the
mean,
prequel for it, because you're right.
maybe, yeah.
Excuse me, aside from the theme song and aside from the title and aside from the
The
origin
fact
of
that
who
that's his
he
name.
is,
Right.
there really isn't much there that ties it to it. But again, when you start watching the 80s film with Lee Majors and Doug Barr and Thomas, like, you just sort of like dropped in, they're already doing the work.
Right.
I, but it doesn't really make it clear that this is like a prequel, which is really funny to think of
Yeah, and
anyway.
even if it
So,
was, what's funny is if you wanted to really kind of be the show, like he has to wait like 10 years to
right,
make like
that's
the
the other thing.
sequel.
That's the other thing. Like, what's he doing in between that time? I don't know, healing up or having this love affair. Does it work? Does it not? Bottom line is, I had a blast watching the film. I thought, for the most part, I thought it was very fun anyway, but I thought it was thoughtful when it didn't need to be. Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is walking around and he's just this narcissistic vanity jerk who thinks he's the cat's meow, right? But he doesn't ever do anything. That's what all the stunt people do for him. And they cater and they coddle because that's the environment. You sort of get the hint that he's supposed to be Tom Cruise, and it's not an accident until you have Ryan Gosling walking around and he name drops
Right,
Tom
right.
Cruise. So in this instance, there are these moments, and they're not just freckled; they're actually spackled with things that are terribly unimportant, but give a gravity to the film that I really appreciated. Like, okay, I know the universe you're in. You're in my world, and I thought that was Tom Cruise, but you just name checked him. It can't be. That attention I really respected in a film that didn't need it. And I thought in the beginning of the film, it really loads up a lot of that. And it does that by sometimes dropping hints like Gosling's Colt says, I once escaped from a boat with my hands tied behind my back. And you're like, of course you did. Later, that comes in kind of handy. And that whole scene was among one of the awkward ones because it doesn't fit properly. It's like when they're trying to make it fit and they think that they've smoothed the edges out enough and they didn't.
Yeah.
It's still a fun scene. Almost all the scenes in here are fun, even the cartoonish hand-to-hand violence. But you're right, when they're doing stunts, it's awesome. When they're doing fist fights, it's really Looney Tunes. Like it's one anvil short of being Roadrunner. It still had a lot of fun. I could easily see this film, though Ryan Gosling is in it. It's sort of a weird hint that Ryan Reynolds could have been in it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing here is these two Ryans sort of are the upcoming kings of a would-be Hollywood. Ryan Reynolds is very busy doing Deadpool things and doing snarky witticism roles instead of where I actually think his strongest stuff is when he's playing straight. He's a hell of an actor. He just won't do those roles or can't. Ryan Gosling, I think, is clearly people talk about there are no more movie stars now that Tom Cruise is like almost 70. Oh, Ryan Gosling's a movie star. Maybe this doesn't prove it, but it certainly shows that his aptitude from going in Barbie to the Fall Guy, he's incredibly watchable. He's got this weird charisma that is both affable and approachable. And yet, when he does scenes that are just so numb, you're watching them and like, all right, like I'm still sort of rooting for you. All that to pepper aside one small thing. There's like this weird fist fight scene that they're having inside of Aaron Taylor Johnson's condo. And it sort of had like a goofy, weird tone deaf thing where they make a couple jokes about a gun firing blank. And I thought, there's a weird Alec Baldwin
Right.
real life lawsuit legal case over someone who died over a gun. And I'm like, for some reason, I couldn't get that thought out of my head, even though there's no hint of Alec Baldwin. It's just like, I don't know that this is too soon to be making jokes about guns firing blanks, but I think it's a weird sort of small misstep. Yet in that whole goofy Looney Tunes scene, Ryan Gosling's just nailing everything.
Yeah.
Like, I am done blathering. I would say his opening monologue, his strut, his whole opening before the accident, captivating, like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much fun. And I'm watching that and I'm like, hey man,
it's a great
buckle
intro.
up. That is insanely fun. Then you get the I'm a broken shell of a man. Then when he starts figuring out like, yeah, I'll flip your car around and do some stuff, you're like, okay. Like I don't start losing interest into the film, which is over 2 hours long, until, maybe an hour and a half in, and I think it's just not able to keep its own momentum.
Yeah, the end, and that's one of my problems is,
Yeah.
the end is too long.
Yeah.
And, like, too, like, stretched out,
Convoluted and yeah, right. Yeah.
and the ending to me starts to feel like, they had this movie, like, an hour and 40 minutes,
Yeah.
and then someone's like, "You know what? If you make it 2 hours, people think you're cooler," or,
Right.
whatever, and then the ending just really kinda got platted, right?
Yeah.
They This feels very much to me like, and this could be complete nonsense that I'm making up in my head, but I feel like they totally reshot the helicopter scene and just made it like 4 times as long.
Right.
Because there's a
It
bunch of
does.
stuff that happens in there where it's like, "Well, just hit him again. Well, now you're on this side. Well, now
Yeah.
this is this," and then he falls down and she gets the gun and this and then, like,
Yeah.
on and on, and I'm like, "I bet there is a version of that whole thing
Yeah.
that's like 1 minute long, movie's over,
Clip.
we do he jumps on the helicopter, that's all you need, he
Yeah.
gets in, whatever, and we win and hooray."
Mhm.
Because it doesn't feel like all of the other stuff I was
Right.
watching,
That's
right?
I agree.
Where we're not just having stuff happen, like, forever,
Yeah.
because that's not what happens
Totally.
in all the rest of the movie. Even those parts where you've got kind of like a long drawn out thing in the apartment,
Yeah.
and then the bad guy gets the gun with the blanks, and then
Yeah.
he shoots at you, which I thought was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But even though that's a really long thing, it's all like all these individual things happen real fast and then you're done.
Yeah.
Not like everything is all drawn out forever. And there's so much of the movie that I think the pacing is like really good,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We're
Even
doing what we're doing, we're
yeah.
moving on,
Yep.
we're throwing in a little funny line here,
Yep.
whatever. And then you get to like the last half hour, and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap. And then, spoiler alert, whatever, if this means anything to you, but like we trap him in the car.
Yep.
God, we have to watch that happening forever. We have
Yeah.
to watch the guys, either like the stunt guys
Right.
surrounding him. And then Ryan Gosling gets in the car,
Mhm.
and we have to like chat for a
Do
couple
that.
minutes. It's
Yeah.
like, what? Then we have to watch him drive down this track like
Yeah.
from three different angles,
Yeah.
watching it again and
Right.
again.
Right.
He's just driving. Like
Right.
how like
Get him there.
how
Yeah.
much do I have to see that? If he jumps the car
Yeah.
and you want to show me that a couple of times from different angles, I mean, fine.
That's what you
Right.
do.
Okay.
Right.
But he's just driving
Driving.
down the dirt
Yeah.
road. We got to
Right.
watch it from different angles. We
Yeah.
had a helicopter that day that we
We had it.
weren't done with.
Let's keep running. That we weren't
Whatever.
done with. Yeah.
It's
What
like,
fuels it got?
come
2 more.
on, yeah. But overall, like you said, the intro is really
It's
cool.
really great.
The like weepy boy part again is longer than it needs to be,
Right.
because really that is, you want to actually deliver it or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's really so simple a thing, and you're like trying to make it out like you're doing some complex thing,
Right.
right?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I don't need you to keep telling me
Yeah.
why this is where he is and
Right.
his
Right.
whole
I
all his thoughts and
I didn't go
whatever.
to the bathroom. I've
And I'm
been
like,
here.
yeah, I get it. But then once it gets going, yeah, it's really good. The
Ye
the other problems that I just want to throw out really quick
Yeah.
are, for as good as they are, and their characters are really good, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
and I think they, solidly move through their whole relationship and have conversations with each other and everything.
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson and
Oh, yeah.
Waddingham,
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
they are so weirdly caricature
One-dimensional,
written
barely. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that she's not even a surprise.
Right.
When
Right.
when you find out about her, you're like, well, duh.
Right.
She was wearing that name tag when she first showed up,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, man. And Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, I'm like, he feels in this movie like I say in like the comic book movies or
Mhm.
whatever, right? Like the villain doesn't have to be just a psycho
Right.
who's evil,
Right.
right?
That's not enough.
Like
Yeah.
this guy could kind of be this guy without being the world's most evilest person ever,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
it's like
Right.
everything has to
Yeah.
be anyway.
There's a bit of fun that is happening when Winston Duke is on the screen too. I didn't want to
Mhm.
forget to mention him because he's just and this is with all due respect to him, and I don't know whether or not the role was written for him because sometimes they are. Um, he brings something to that clearly background character that anybody might have been just cast in, but he brings that guy alive in a way that I really had fun with when he's doing
Yeah, yeah.
scenes with Emily Blunt or with Ryan Gosling. The dumb you're 100% right about those things. I remember thinking something so dumb too, when that big look at me when the, karaoke scene is happening and there's the action scene happening alongside the karaoke scene, and Ryan Gosling just jumps over some barrier and the dog is with him and it's all slow-mo and then there's, like, a guitar riff, and I'm like, "Damn, this is made for, like, my '80s popcorn
Right, right.
sensibilities." Um, there's also a mistake that they make that I feel actually hurts the film, which is, like you said, to make the villains, make the antagonists so cliché, and you say this a bunch, and it's a perfect analogy for it too. It didn't have to be a Jason Bourne movie for me to love it. It could have been exactly what it wanted to be. When it makes them so one-dimensional, almost no-dimensional, so Scooby-Doo
Yeah,
against
yeah.
against the backdrop of something that, again, isn't as mature is not the right word, serious. The way the Jason Bourne films take themselves seriously. This absolutely understands what it's trying to do. Like, I actually hate the 2 pop culture phrases like "Nothing Burger" and "It understood the assignment."
Right, right.
This thing understood the assignment. It's a movie about stuntmen who are really, really awesome. They love their stuntmen, and they're fearless and they'll take a beating. And there's a moment later when Ryan Gosling sort of does what every stuntman in the world has probably wanted everybody who's seen the film to know. And he says, they all hurt. Everything hurts.
Right.
Getting thrown through a window hurts. Getting burnt hurts. Getting punched in the face hurts. Like all these falls that I take, every one of them hurts. And you get the sense that every stuntman at home or in the theater is like, yeah, yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Yet it undermines itself in a way that I didn't think it had to, just to make them so comedically like taking off the mask and them
Yeah.
saying, I would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for you stuntmen
Yeah,
too.
and then especially
God,
at, like, the
right
very
near the
end
end. Yeah.
when, it really is like she's giving her, like, Scooby-Doo
Yeah.
speech kind of, and then it just becomes kind of, like, farcical because, it's like, Aaron Taylor Johnson's, like, still gonna just run away.
Right.
Like,
All the people have heard it. There's a videotape and just give me the tape. No one can
it's like
testify,
1,000 people around you.
I mean, if you believe that like it's not supposed to be like a documentary, like really their scene between Emily Blunt and him when they're talking in front of the entire crew, that would never have played out like that. That's
Right,
not
right.
undermining anybody successfully. But in a soap opera, well, that's how we're gonna do things. And yet that Scooby-Doo crap, I'm just like, "Oh my god, really?" Like, she's basically waving her hand in front of people and like, "You've forgotten me.
Right.
I'm going to get away with it." And you're like, "You're only, like, supposedly like Steven Spielberg in this world. Like,
Right.
how am I gonna forget you?" So,
Right.
it
Right,
it does have its drawbacks.
and it is I think it's, like, hilarious, they get the tape and, like, they get the confession and the
Right,
whole thing.
right.
Like, that is a cool part,
Yeah,
right?
right,
But then the whole, like, "I'm gonna shoot this guy and steal the tape and stuff," and
right,
you're like, I mean, what, like,
right.
Walmart
Yeah,
YouTube video
right.
villain do you think you can just,
Yeah.
what
I di
like,
Now I'm
I'm
gone.
not here.
Yeah,
And
right.
then, like, if she destroys this thing, like, "Well, everything's fine now."
Yeah, right.
Like, just back to my life.
Just my word against all of yours.
Right. Yeah, that part gets a little goofy, but
Yeah,
like I said, we're gonna wrap up,
yeah.
but it's just so, like,
Fun.
fun
It's
and
fun.
good time
It's fun and he's
without
fun.
there are so many movies that are similar to this in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
except that then we show up and go, "But they're just calling you stupid."
right.
I mean, they're trying to be in this
Yeah.
same world, and they're like, "Look, man, it's just action
And you liked that,
and,
why don't you
it's
like
fun."
this?
Right. And
Yeah,
even though we have those problems with this one
yeah,
that kinda seem like they're in the same world,
yeah,
but the other ones, so clearly, like I said, it's like the mindset behind making them.
right.
It's like this one knows what it's
Yeah,
doing, and sure, our villains are a little,
right, but you're not supposed to.
not
Right,
great, but overall,
right.
and especially, I
Yeah.
mean, like, the 2 of them, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, like, could both read the yellow pages at you.
Charisma
Yeah.
and chemistry go a long way, and this kind of film shows it. Like, it really when the film is working, it's usually because one or both of them are on the screen at the same time, and when it suffers, it's usually when they aren't,
Yeah. This a
you know?
and it really is, like, this is, not to try and, I don't know, harken back to the glory days of old people movies or, whatever nonsense, and we are just old dudes talking about movies,
We
but
are.
this is really like the same kind of thing when you had movies, like, really ages and ages ago,
Yeah,
when you had the 2 big stars,
yeah.
and it's like, "Well, what's the movie about?" And it's like,
Who
"Who
cares?
cares?"
Do you
It's
care?
like
Just show
these
up.
2 people are
Yeah,
in it, right?
right, right.
And this is like that, but so much fun, and some of the stunts are really, really cool, so
Yeah,
if you like that, and,
right.
real stuntmen,
W
versions of
working
stunts,
there's yeah,
right?
working
Like,
their
not,
stuff.
CGI this and that, and
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
anyway, so that's it, for this week. Thanks for tuning in,
Yeah,
and our next show, I think, is either going to be
right.
Apes
Yeah,
or Furiosa or
right.
whatever,
Both or
or it will be something that
if
lands just before
right.
Furiosa, so
Yeah,
maybe If. We might
We'll
also
see.
have to see apes, but
Yeah.
thanks for tuning in, and, please, share, rate, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Bye.
Bye.